I'm Catalina Byrd, and we are here with the post-panel discussion following Empower Hour with Be More News, the news before the news. And I'm joined by Charles Robinson and Mr. Handy. How are you? And
What's up?
we already were getting into it before the camera
Right
started
on, right
rolling
on.
because there are some controversial feelings and emotions towards our beloved president. Norman, by all means, say it where people can see you and put you on record for having said it. What did you say about that man now?
The man personally really is irrelevant. The whole issue between any politician is to analyze their policies. So if you like Barack Obama, if you support Barack Obama, cool, pray for him. But the notion of supporting rendition, the notion of supporting an illegal war, the notion of supporting tax breaks to tax subsidies to drug companies that later pay no taxes and still have a drug healthcare system that has over $800 billion of fraud. Do you support Guantanamo Bay? Do you support? I mean, just in other words, this man's policies are not liberal. They're not leftist. They're far from socialist. These are the most conservative policies you've ever seen. It's
Okay,
completely fine.
but in fairness, Norman, how
Sure.
many of these policies are carryovers from policies that were in existence prior to his ever holding that office that he has no choice but to remedy and see through to the end? And when you're in a bad situation, what else can you do but to bring it through to the end and bring it to its close as quickly as possible and efficiently as
Well,
possible?
if you run a campaign on change and hope, then I would hope you would change something. The idea that you're going to tell people, right, I agree with you. These policies are Bush policies. And some of these Bush policies have been deemed unconstitutional. Some of these Bush policies are, if they're not controversial, why would you continue them? Here, think about this. You want to change something. You can't stop something that's illegal. You can't stop an illegal war. I mean, that's if you can't change
Well,
that.
it's very simple.
Sure.
When you're lost on your way somewhere in a rural area, do you sit on the side of the road and wait for someone to find you, or do you keep driving forward, waiting to see the next sign of life and people so that you can get directed back into the path that you meant to be on? Mr. Robinson, you jump right on there because I don't. Me and
I
this guy.
think I think part of it is that when you begin a process, it is not instantaneously changed. I think part of it is you got to put the mechanisms in place, and at the end of the day, whether or not this president succeeds depends on I think several things. Obviously, he needs an economic climate that is different from what he inherited. I'm not certain if that's going to happen, but I know this much is that there's a lot of money that's sitting on the sidelines from a number of businesses. I said initially that the president should point to a specific company that reflects his worldview, and I don't think he's been able to do that. One of the things that also I think is going to be very important for him is that how he reflects his ideas in a much broader sense to the international community, because despite what you think here in the United States, he's still well loved overseas. And if he's able to, I mean, I think he's already pulled off some pretty remarkable things. Healthcare is a big deal. Don't get me wrong; it's the reason why so many people want it repealed. The other one is that to get economics moving in such a direction that people will get off the sidelines. And I think there are a number of people. I'm not necessarily thrilled with the whole concept of, yeah, we're going to give a bunch of millionaires some tax breaks. I still don't understand that concept, but let's hear the argument because it better be a damn good one.
And Norman, I see your face making all kinds of gestures over there. Solution oriented. If this is not the way in which he should have gone about changing the things that were in existence when he came into office, what would you have done differently?
We can start. I'm glad you mentioned the healthcare bill. For example, you talk about an opportunity to make change. You look at the healthcare bill. You look at the biggest issue in the healthcare system is fraud and charges. For example, you have $250 billion of fraud. You have $350 billion in annual administrative fees. For example, when the federal government is a large consumer, think about all the people that are on the public
These
healthcare
are the
system.
things we know exist, but what were you going to do differently?
Trust me, I'm coming.
Okay.
The notion that, for example, if the federal government tries to buy drugs, Barack Obama has guaranteed the healthcare insurers, the healthcare providers, that he will veto any legislation that allows the federal government to negotiate for lower drug prices or
I don't think that's correct.
well,
Andy.
you're dead wrong, and I'll
Andy,
show. And let me.
Andy,
And if you let
I
me
think-
finish, you let me finish.
No, I just want to
well, I
correct
tell you
the
what,
record.
you will
That's
get your
not
time.
quite right.
Trust you me. He guaranteed that the he would veto any legislation that would allow for them to negotiate for cheaper drug prices and or import drugs from Canada.
No,
Now,
that's under the George Bush
no,
administration, sir.
it was under this health care. It was under the brand new bill that he guaranteed.
What we're always very good at doing is arguing different opinions. Still, I didn't hear you offer a solution.
The solution is when the federal government goes to buy drugs from all these drug companies, why can't it? It's a large consumer. Imagine the notion that you have a huge pool of consumers. All the people on Medicare, all the people on Medicaid, all the people on the program. There's a huge consumer. When you go to McDonald's, when you buy things individually, you buy them at a higher price. When you're a huge consumer, you get a quantity discount. The federal government is the largest consumer in the United States. It should have the cheapest drug prices, and it doesn't. For example, United Healthcare. I said this last week. The CEO of United Healthcare received $477 million for 5 years' work. His predecessor received $1 billion for 10 years' work. That is the problem with the healthcare system. What was done to ensure that they don't get these $1 million? There are 100 people at United Healthcare that make over $1 million. What's done about that?
Mr. Robinson, you took issue with the statistics that Norman
Take my card and I'll give you the data.
and that Norman stated. What is it that is your understanding of the healthcare?
Well, he's going back to an issue that when George Bush put together the whole idea of for seniors to give them a drug benefit, that he put together a whole concept of not being able to, if you will, import drugs, and that was his Benny to them. And so you're rehashing an old argument. Part of one of the new argument is that the president in the health care bill asked for several experimental programs that allowed states to try some different methodologies. So, you know, I'm glad that you have some facts because I don't think the facts add up to what you said.
Well, as always, we can continue this on and on. Whether you are for or against or fully understand or have interpreted a couple of facts and decided you know the whole picture, there's still 2 years to find out and do some more analysis. And you can always do it right here on Be More News, the news before the news.